Hello, and thank you for checking out this Uniquely Divine Conversations podcast. I am Karen Slack, the owner of Unique Beauty and Meditation.
And I'm Danielle Graham from Divine Clarity. We are here together sharing conversations about spirituality, life, and everything in between.
And we are grateful for your comments and your shares and your subscribes so that we can continue to have these conversations. And just as a reminder, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. These are conversations about our life and our experiences. And yeah, yours could be different, and that's okay. So check out this episode and enjoy.
Hello, thanks for joining us today. I'm here with Danielle. We are excited to be back sharing this video podcast with you. It's been a little bit since we have been able to connect and offer an episode. So we are excited to be back here, and we are actually excited to talk about the notion of saying yes more and leaning into things that might not be our norm or might be a little bit more uncomfortable for us. So good afternoon, Danielle. How are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you. Good afternoon. You know how we love talking about the icky nitty gritty, don't we? Getting uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
I'm dropping cards all over the place. I'm right back in the swing of things.
Love
My
that.
bad. So I'm really excited to be here. I think we are both excited about this subject. As you know, Karen, I was offered an opportunity that I wouldn't normally say yes to yesterday. And it got me thinking, and I keep thinking about your pledge to yourself to continue to say yes more. And you've been doing that since the beginning of the year, right?
Yeah, it was right around the turn of the year that I decided, you know what, I need to say yes more, because that rational resistance that comes into our mind was probably playing a little bit more part in my decisions than I recognized. So I decided, you know what, I'm just going to take a chance and I'm going to say yes more. And it was focused more so around work situations. But I found it quickly bleeding into some life situations. So yes, absolutely.
That's very cool. And I have to say, since we started talking about this months ago, like there was a little bit of jealousy in me, and oh, I wish I could say yes more. And then the ego part of me is like, but I like saying no. It's okay, and I'm just not ready yet. But perhaps now I'm switching into that. All right, let's take that jealousy and use it as motivation to do it, because I'm a little more comfortable with the notion than I was a few months ago. It's odd that you could be so jealous of something and want nothing to do with it at the same time, but I was allowed to live vicariously through you, so thank you.
Well, and I love that. I love that you bring up that jealousy piece, because it takes a bit of a humble nature to be able to step back and be like, okay, I'm jealous of this from somebody else, and own it as your own, not as something that they're doing. You know what I mean? And to be able to be like, oh, I'm a little bit jealous of this, and what's that mean for me? And maybe I want to step out a little bit more, and maybe I want to try that. So the jealousy gets to be almost like an awareness piece on our path that, hey, maybe you want to step into something new, or maybe you want to try something different. So yeah, absolutely. I myself, when you were talking about your scenario yesterday, I'm like, I kind of want to do some of that, and found myself mindfully being aware of the parts of me that were a little bit jealous and taking that as a yes, I'm going to work on saying yes to this more. And I think that as we say yes to things and we try them, two things, I feel like it can activate some anxiety within us, but also it communicates with the universe that we're willing to, that we want more of it.
Right.
So I love both of those notions.
So in hindsight now, being 6 months into the year now, and me being jealous of you saying yes more, now I'm kind of like, oh, that's probably why it was bringing up these feelings of anxiety, or no, thank you, I'm good. Because now in hindsight, I can see like the tower moments I have been going through. So had I been saying yes more in January, February, March even, that probably wouldn't have worked out so well for me. But now that those tower moments are hopefully building their way back up again to good, now is the time I'm more comfortable in saying yes. I didn't even realize it till just the second when you were talking.
Can you be a little bit more specific? You don't have to share life details, but can you share a little bit more kind of describe tower moments, because me and you talk about tower moments all the time. But for those of our viewers that don't necessarily follow tarot and don't understand what we mean by tower moments, they might need a little bit of help with that.
Sure. Let me put it plainly. When your world goes to shit. And it wasn't shit. I'm just teasing. But things that take you completely and totally out of your comfort zone, out of your norm, blow up your, what your plan is, and just take you by surprise. So I don't have a problem sharing, but we did have some family medical issues that had to be tended to. And in doing so, the business had to take the side seat. There's just been one event after another that just seemed to sideline my plan. So, what does that tell you? You got to go with the flow, because your plan is useless if the universe has other things in store for you. But, my eye has always been on the prize. Even though when I was going through those stressful moments, in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, I just can't wait to get back to my norm. I can't wait to get back to working and doing what I want to do and doing what I love to do. And I kept saying, okay, universe, I'm ready. Things are slow. Things are looking really good. And then the universe was like, nah, there's another one. So I just had to go through some stuff. And I've been reading some things too, like memes have been popping up in my feed talking about, when you are feeling stagnant, or when you're feeling, I don't know, I think I've been feeling kind of overwhelmed and or heavy. I kind of teeter between the two, that it's just the universe slowing you down, giving you that moment, that space of grace before some big growth is going to come. Or my husband's singing in the background. Or he's like, oh, the weight is gone.
I love it.
Before some big moment is about to happen that is worth singing about. So that's what I meant by tower moments.
And I love that. Sometimes it does. Sometimes saying yes also involves saying yes to those times in life where it feels like the universe is telling you no. You know what I mean? Like those moments where you're ready to be in a different place, but you're just not there yet. And the universe is telling you no. Sometimes saying yes means saying yes to the pause, saying yes to, okay, this is happening and it feels kind of shitty, but I'm going to go with it because that's where I am. I understand I'm not going to be stuck here, and I understand I want to be there, but for now, this is what I'm working with. And there's power in that too. There's absolutely power in that.
Right. And not for 1 minute did I think I'm going to be here forever. That was never a notion in my head. And now, again, in hindsight, I'm thinking of all these things the universe was handing me, saying, say yes to this. And I was like, no. The whole, notion of getting back into the specific journaling meditation that I know I want to be doing, but I just haven't had that desire. And I think, again, my tower moments weren't over yet. And I think I'm finally starting to come out of that and see the light now, where those things are more appealing to me.
Yep. And there's something to be said about stopping in recognizing our capacity within situations. Like I know yesterday I had all the stuff that I should be doing and that I wanted to accomplish, but I just simply did not have the capacity to do it. It wasn't there physically, it wasn't there mentally. So, if I'm being honest, I took like a nap or two. I took a nap and I relaxed and I did meditation and I said yes to needing that day for rest and reprieve, and it really seemed to make a difference. And I think that there is often more spiritual understandings that we don't even recognize, that are shifting in our energy field, shifting in our mind, shifting in our body, that happen in situations like that. And I think when we can pause and allow them to process without making them logical, I think that makes a difference.
Sure, absolutely. So what the things that you have been saying yes to, and you don't necessarily have to share those specifically, but do you find yourself, because one of the things where you were talking about is the more times you say yes to something, especially something that's promoting that growth, taking you out of your comfort zone, out of your safety net, do you feel like more is being offered to you now that you started saying yes? There's more yes opportunities coming to you.
I guess I haven't reflected on that a ton because I've enjoyed being where I am and moving how I'm moving. Um, but I do appreciate, but yes, I do think they do because I've had a lot of different avenues. I actually was talking to somebody the other day, and there's different avenues of possibilities that I find around me. And I think that I'm able to recognize them more. Not that they weren't there before, but I am able to recognize and see them more and say yes to them more because I've started this process. And it's interesting, the process within me that happens is it doesn't even start with anxiety. What it doesn't start with what I assume anxiety would look like. I'll put it that way. Um, but it starts with like this narration in my head of saying, no, this, it like picks out, it's almost like this negative narration in my head that picks out what all could go wrong or what
Mhm.
isn't proper about the situation. And but when I've said yes and when I've continued to say yes, that narration is still there. However, there's this, but you said you'd say yes to more things. That is much more grounded and open and ear catching that pops into my mind as well. So it's almost like that angel and the devil on the shoulder. Yeah, that devil has his chatter, but that angel saying, but you'd say yeah, you said you'd say yes to things, just steps in and it's like, okay, yep, I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna ignore that and move on. And I feel like it has helped me look past some of the more oppressive anxiety that comes up sometimes
Right.
and lean into the more expanding anxiety, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the way you said, not that those things weren't there before, those opportunities to say yes. It's not like they weren't there and you were just choosing to, wait, how do I want to say that? It's not that they weren't there. And now that you've been saying yes, here they come. They've always been there. You're just more open to the fact that they're there and they are, in fact, an opportunity for you to take advantage of. I love that you said that. Yeah, the thing that popped up for me yesterday, my initial reaction was how cool, yeah, I want to do that. But then that anxiety came in and went, that's not something you normally do. Now it's something I do for myself. It's something that I have taught clients to do, but it's not a service that I offer, a paid service that I normally offer, and may not again, but this particular opportunity, once I said, let me sit with that. And that's always my go-to now. I try not to say no right away, but let me sit with it and see how it feels. Within moments, that's all I could think about. So yes, I was feeling the anxiety. Yes, I was feeling the tugs at all of my, I don't know, feelings of inadequacies or insecurities. And then I was like, no, I really want to do this. And then answered immediately. So, and then, also I kind of put my boundaries out on the line and said, if I'm going to do this, it's going to happen this way, and this way. And then I know if that person says yes to that and that resonated with them, then I was really meant to do this. And if not, then I would help them find someone else who could. But yeah, all of those little mosquito bites came picking at me. So I totally get where you're going with that.
And I like the notion of like the image that popped into my mind for that was like it's almost like our ego, or we have this fight or flight response, we have this, and we've talked about that in a couple of different scenarios, me and you lately, but we have this fight or flight response. And when we get nervous about something, it's almost like our ego steps in and covers us in those security blankets of the like you said, those thoughts of what if this happens, what ifs, the negative what ifs are all security blankets to make us feel safe and keep us in what's familiar, even though what's familiar may not serve us anymore and it's time for us to move into the unknown. um, but I like that we get to challenge that little bit of fight or flight response and step into the unknown. And I like looking at, and again, I am not a medical professional. This is my experiences within anxiety for myself and what I've experienced. Please seek a medical health professional for any mental or physical health concerns. Take what resonates and leave what doesn't. But within my experiences of anxiety, I found that there's like two types that I'm that I'm faced with. One is oppressive, one really shortens my world. It's like a black cloud that's around me and is very fear-based. And then there's one that's expanding and is a little bit more opening. And yes, there's fear in it, but there's also excitement in it. And that's the one that I feel when I step out and I say yes to something that I normally wouldn't. But that's also the one I feel when I connect to an energy or I connect to spirit or I got notifications. I'm sorry for the sounds.
Oh, I didn't
Um,
hear anything.
oh, good. When I connect to a spirit or I connect to an energy of a space or a situation, I get that same reaction. And that one feels more expansive. So I almost I feel like I want to honor those moments in my life where I have felt that oppressive anxiety versus that expansion anxiety so I can recognize the difference. And I can be mindful to step back and be like, okay, does this anxiousness I'm feeling, and I guess I'll let you put the word that you would prefer to put in there, whether it's anxiety or anxiousness, because I know that there's a definitely a difference in those two words and how it feels for people. Is this anxiousness something that is oppressive and is keeping me from something in a safe way, or is it an anxiousness that's preventing me from stepping into the new? And I like that. And I keep coming back to a phrase I was taught way back in the salon years ago by one of my mentors. And he said, when you feel that anxiety, it recognizes that you're growing and you're learning and you're stepping into new opportunities, and to take a breath and take the power as you breathe, take the power from that anxiousness and use it to fuel you moving forward.
Right. I love that. And I think I would almost add, I think anxiousness resonates with me more, but I think I would almost like to add excitement to that, because there was definitely excitement in that anxiety I was feeling yesterday. But that is so important to check in with it. And is it something that the universe is saying, no, wait, stop, be careful, be mindful, this might not be good for you, kind of anxiety or anxiousness? Or is that, yeah, this is going to be really cool. And yeah, it's really scary, but it's going to make you grow from it. So I do love that. Now, I don't know if everyone watching knows that we also are doing a live Zoom sessions called Living Intuitively with Tarot. And we are visiting each of the major arcana and going into depth about the card, but also the unique meaning for each individual for the card, what it's bringing up for them that day. And we just happened to go over the Magician in our last Zoom session. And the Magician talks about being given everything already, or already possessing everything you need to face the obstacles, to face the opportunities that you're going to come up against in life. And that also came to mind for me. I really feel like this was a Magician moment for me, where I was like, oh, you know, who am I thinking I am to do this as a service? And then I'm like, wait a minute, why not? I have all the tools for this. I can do this. So this was very much a Magician moment in this instance for me. I'm going to let you chat and give a little story for you while I let the dog out of my room because she's crying.
Absolutely. So I love the notion of the Magician asking us, are we ready to say yes, or are you still comfortable in your no? I feel like recently, this week, my work within the Magician personally has helped me recognize that I'm ready to say yes to a different pattern. I'm ready to say yes to a different mentality. And I'm ready to, actually, it was for me, it was ready to say yes to an old pattern that I had let go of.
Ooh.
And the notion of, it's almost like I was brought to situations to reconnect with the notion of connecting with our heart light. I took my advanced inner light practitioner course with Beth Lynch, and we did the Magician session. And then I actually had this really amazing group reading, and it was the largest group reading that I've done to date for just intuitive reading versus meditation. And I loved the whole process was saying yes to all of these things. And at first, like you said, there was that excitement, and then there was that narration. So I feel like my Magician energy helped present these situations to me, and it reconnected me to the notion of connecting to our heart light and expanding that light out into our places and into our spaces and into ourselves, and using that light to say yes to, I'm choosing the positive versus I'm choosing the negative. And it, for me, it helped to honor that I have a choice in what I allow in my immediate circle of energy. And it takes mindfulness and awareness. And when you don't actively, when you don't sit actively, how am I want to say this? When you don't sit with awareness of what energy is around you or that you're letting in, it will spill into your life. Just as much as those no's continue, those yeses can continue. And I guess my magician moment was learning to say yes to the positive more and to say no to what feels negative and to work on pushing that so that's not my choice. Does that make sense?
It makes a whole lot of sense. And not only is it mindfulness and awareness, but it's strength and courage. I think we just have to keep mustering up that courage over and over again. And I'd like to say that it gets easier with each time, but I'm not so sure that's true. I think some are easier to say yes to than others. I don't think it necessarily will just continue to get easier over time, but I feel like the ones that feel more important to you, like this one, I could feel in my gut. And I'm like, this just feels so important to me. It was easy to say yes. And maybe some things won't be as easy. Maybe bigger things won't be as easy to say yes to. But I love that you said, what did you say? How did you say it? When you choose to allow whatever's taking up space in your life. I forgot how you said it, but it's your choice to decide what the opportunities are going to be for you, ahead for you, what you're going to say yes to, what you're not going to allow. I love that.
Absolutely. The notion of choosing what energy is in your space, choosing the energy that's in your space, but also choosing what fuels the energy within your space. For me, it wasn't so much choosing the energy as choosing what was going to fuel the energy within myself and within my space. And for me, those scary yeses come with faith and come with a connection to my spirituality and a connection to my to how I experience a divine source and the divine universe and God. And I have to lean into surrendering that there is a higher power that's guiding me that knows more than I do. You know what I mean? Okay, this feels right. I recognize the fear in my want to say no, but this feels right. And I want to say yes to it. And the bigger ones that feel bigger to me, they may not look bigger to other people, but they feel bigger to me. It's a matter of, I'm going to trust that there is an angel or my God or however you celebrate that energy, and say yes and trust that somebody knows better than I do, and have faith that it's going to work out.
I do. I love that because I keep reminding myself who I'm doing this for, what I'm doing this for. And it's absolutely the work of our angels, God, the divine, the universe, however you want to put that. Let's talk about the decision process a little bit, if we can. I know that I am like the queen of boundaries. When I say something like, I am not going to do this, this, and this, like I will not take same day readings. I just won't do that. The people, most times I don't have the opportunity to, but the people are not in a good headspace to hear what they need to hear. They're looking to hear what they want to hear. That's my experience, bless you, with that. So that is a boundary of mine. And it's funny because I am presented with it over and over again. And part of me keeps thinking, is the universe testing me? Should I be changing that boundary? But I'm like, no, because every time I do, it just sets it up for failure again. So that is something I hold true to. So I know when an opportunity comes up and it's the same day reading kind of thing, or something that brushes up against my boundaries, that is a no for me. Yesterday's, excuse me, I felt that excitement in my gut. I couldn't stop my brain from thinking about it and thinking about the possibilities that would come from this and thinking about the opportunity and how big it is in my own personal life for me. Other people might not think it's such a big deal, but for me, this is. And that made me go, yeah, this is the one. But, I mean, normally it's checking in, like we had said, and is this anxiousness something good? Am I excited about this? then yes, I'm going to say yes. Is this anxiousness something that's saying, you better stop and think about this? Then I'm going to say no. But what is your decision process?
I have to say there's definitely, and while I'm talking, I'm looking for a card. This card totally honors that notion of honoring the boundaries that are important to us, but allowing ourselves to step out of those boundaries that may not be serving us anymore. There's such there's a dance with that kind of energy. There's a dance with, you know what boundaries am I ready to test and what boundaries am I just not ready to give up? And I think we get to have, I think it's at the very end of this deck. Oh my God, so funny.
Well, when it
I
comes
think
up, I'm always thinking, is the universe trying to get me to change this boundary? And then I do it once in a while and I'm like, nope, that was the wrong decision. So I just have to hold true to myself that that is the boundary I am keeping. I saw you found it. Go ahead.
so. This is the card, and it always reminds me of finding your power within the boundaries that you have, but also allowing yourself to step out of the boundaries and feel the chaos of the unknown and breathe through it, because it is an air card, and it does talk about chaotic return and the idea that we get a return when we return to our comfort zone after stepping out of it. We've grown and we've expanded, and I love that. And it's that I think, I don't know if there is a right or wrong. To be perfectly honest, it's almost as if the universe presents us with opportunities, and our free will choice gets to decide, what are we ready for at this time? And I feel like maybe our guides and our higher self encourage us in certain avenues, but then we are also presented with situations that remind us of the boundaries that are important to us that we want to maintain. Um, Getting back to the notion you talked about, what that decision process looks for me, is I do have to say that there is definitely an excitement in it for me. And I would love for our listeners to share with us either in the comments below on the YouTube page, or find us on Facebook and share us, or direct message us. But there is some excitement. There is a notion of excitement. And then there is that chatter that this is why you shouldn't do it. But it's that notion that but you said you'd say yes more. And it's almost as if the chatter are the toddlers in my head throwing a little bit of a fit, and then there's this more authoritative, open, gentle energy that has more resonance, that speaks up in the back of my mind or in the back of my consciousness and says, but you said you'd say yes more. And I can't ignore that. And
Let's
I'm like,
just put it
okay.
out there. It's calling you out. It's like, but this is what you said you were going to do.
Absolutely. So I guess for me, it's activating my free will to say, okay, yes, I'm going to try this. And that notion of acknowledging that it's okay, that it's scary for me, but I'm going to try it anyway.
Right.
That, I have to say, that's my process, is having to recognize both and choosing to say yes.
I love that you mention guides and angels a whole lot, because that, even in the work that we do, this is going to sound crazy probably, but that is one thing I don't often do, is when I have a decision to make, or when I have an opportunity in front of me, sit there and ask my angels and guides for help in making the decision. It's just, I feel like I'm so used to, in my life before this, taking everything on my own, feeling like I had to make every decision myself. It's all on me. I'm all alone. And that's just not true. You ask your guides and angels for help making decisions. You ask them for help in any way, shape, or form. They're going to bring it to you. You just have to be open to see it, but they are going to bring it.
And it's that free will option to listen to it. It's that free will option to say, okay, I'm open to the signs, and that willingness to be wrong,
Right.
that willingness for it to go wrong, that willingness for it to be right. You know what I mean? Like that willingness for it to work out. It's easy for us to see the wrong, and that it's easy for us to protect ourselves from, oh, what is that? There's a phrase in Spider-Man. We're Marvel people. You hear me reference Marvel all the time.
I know, and I watch it, and I never remember what you remember. You remember everything.
There's a phrase in the Spider-Man, MJ says it, and she says, if you expect the worst and if you prepare for the worst, then you're not disappointed. And that feels so, like such a bummer to me. And
Right?
I feel like that's our natural reaction, is to expect the worst so we're prepared for it. However, we get to expect the best. And
Mhm.
I feel like sometimes we need to call on those guides and those angels to help us expect the best. And if it doesn't go right, then we can blame them. Not that we're
Exactly.
blaming them, because there is no wrong. I feel like there's lessons that we get to pull from no matter what happens.
Right.
Um,
And it might not be immediately obvious, the lesson that you're learning, but in hindsight, when you look, you can usually see, oh, it's probably a better reason that this didn't happen the way I wanted it to, and it happened this way.
right. And
Mhm.
I keep coming back to that notion of, I don't think there is a right or a wrong choice. Often we ask ourselves, is this a right choice? Is this a wrong choice? And how often are we asked in our work, am I making the right choice? Am I doing the right thing? And I don't think there is a wrong choice, but I think every situation has something to offer us. But
Mhm.
I think we get to we have to surrender to the fact that we get to, it's our free will to figure that out.
Right. I'm very much about our goal, our dream, our end game, whatever it is that we desire, being at the end of no matter what road we choose. If we're heading down this road and we choose no instead of yes, and we go this way, that road eventually is going to lead to that desire if we keep working towards that. Maybe this would have taught us something. Maybe we weren't ready for it. Maybe we still wanted to sit in the nose and in our comfort zone. That's okay. It doesn't mean that dream and that desire is going to be gone or disappear. There's another opportunity that's going to present itself to you. And when you're ready, you're going to say yes, and you're going to keep moving towards that goal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that this card, I pulled it a few times now, because this is one of my newer decks, and I pulled it a few times. And sometimes when I pull it, it feels like it's an acknowledgement that it's okay to stay in your comfort zone. If you need to repair and you need to rest and you need to find that light again, it's okay to stay in your comfort zone. But then there's other times where it feels like, okay, what boundaries are ready to be tested? And I think that sometimes if we choose something and it doesn't go the way we look, it's it's an encouragement for us to honor what is safe and comfortable, and what we where we do want to be comfortable.
And we've talked about this before. I think it was in the development group that we run, that once you leave that comfort zone, if only for a moment, when you go back, because we do go back to the things we're comfortable with, but we feel different. We're a little more elevated. We're a little more comfortable, and in a good way, we're a little more confident. So there's nothing wrong with going back and forth, because that comfort zone is never what it was before you left it. It's a little elevated when you get back there.
It's like coming inside after being on the beach all day, and you've got that, you feel the sun on your skin more. I feel like that's what happens when we come back to our comfort zone, is we have some of that freshness of
Mhm.
that light that we, or whatever we experienced on us. So
Oh, I
yes,
like that.
absolutely. Very cool. Very cool. So I know you're probably shuffling cards, and I have a couple of decks over here that I've been shuffling. Shall we pull a card to share with our peeps?
I think so. And since we're always talking about how I read tarot, I figured I should probably use a tarot deck this time. And I did not use the Light Seers, even though, as we all know by now, it is my ultimate favorite. This deck that I chose was probably the first one I was drawn to when I started reading tarot. I always look for the Tower card. It is my favorite card in the deck. I always look when I'm going to buy a deck what the Tower card looks like. And if it's gorgeous, I don't care what anything looks like, I'm buying it. And this was it. And I probably should have pulled it out so I could show you. I will look for it while you're reading. But the deck is called the Infinite Visions deck, and it's by Gloria Jean. She's an independent artist, and I just love indie decks. They're my fave. Perfect. So the card I pulled is the Four of Cups. And anyone who reads tarot, and even those who don't, can see that the Four of Cups is making sure that you're not turning your nose up at opportunity that's in front of you. If you look, she's got three cups on this side of her, and she's kind of gazing, bored, and not really interested. But there's this one cup, this one opportunity that's still right here for her that she's not even paying attention to. To me, she looks very content to stay in her comfort zone. She doesn't look excited. She doesn't look like she's even remotely interested in moving forward. So it's just a really good reminder to make sure you're looking all around and make sure you're taking inventory of all the opportunities around for you and say yes more.
I love it. I love that she looks content to a certain extent. Like,
Mm,
to me, that was one thing I found, is that she's found a spot to breathe. Like, after she's been walking for a while, she just found a spot to breathe and she's a little bit content. And when I see those cups, I feel like the three that are underneath where she's gazing are ones that she's cultivated and she's refilled and she's worked with. And the one over that she's kind of turning away from, I feel like she doesn't want to quite drink what's in that one. She doesn't really want what's going on with that one. So she's just going to keep it over there. But someday she'll pick it up and add it to the rest.
that's right. Those three could be her comfort zone. She doesn't look distressed. She doesn't look upset at all. Perhaps she's just taking in her comfort zone and she's not ready to say yes to the dress, yes to anything just yet.
Okay, so
What do you have for us?
sorry, go ahead.
I said, what do you have for us?
I actually am using a tarot deck today, but
Ooh.
unlike Danielle, I do not have a history with tarot, so I read this deck a little bit more intuitively. I chime into what it feels like to me, what it sparks emotionally, what it sparks visually. But this is the Field Tarot by Hannah Fofana, Fofana. And this is the Tower deck from that
Ooh,
card. And I
beautiful.
love the energy that I didn't pull this card, but I pulled it out to show you that this is the Tower. And I love the structure as well as the lightning. Like, I do love the Tower deck, but I don't necessarily look for the Tower deck within a deck.
I totally do. Let me just show you the Tower before we get into it. This is the Tower from the Infinite Visions. And I don't know if you can see the scary faces in the sky. And it looks terrifying to some people, but it just drew me in. I love the colors. And for me, tarot moments, I love change. I embrace change, but tarot moments, there's no better support than rock bottom. And tarot moments can shake you to your core, but you know what you're going to build after that is on like a great sturdy support system. I just love the tarot. Thank you for, the tower. Thank you for showing me that. I'm excited to see it.
Yes, and I like this. I like the notion of being mindful that, you know what, when things don't go right, life is cyclical. And I guess that would be the one thing I would pull from Tower cards, that life is cyclical. And even though things don't feel right now in a good spot, take the lessons that you're learning and let them be the foundation to the amazingness that comes down the road.
Absolutely.
Okay.
They just set you up for new things coming in.
So I've got my Field Tarot. I also pulled the High Priestess out to take a picture of her because I love her. I'm going to move this back just a little. We're going to go over here on the right-hand side. And I feel like being on the right today helps give us a bit of guidance for as we move forward. It goes away. I love this. This is actually the 8 of Cups. Each card does have like one or two phrases, like a word at the bottom, and it honors the ability to retreat. And automatically, I love the 8 for a reminder that there's infinite abundance available to us. What we need, again, like the magician, what we need is available to us if we take a moment, pause, refill, and nurture our energy, and take a moment to look around. So I feel like automatically when I see these cups piled up, I think about, you know how when you go to a wedding and you have those fountains, and like the champagne's fountain, the cup fills up so much that it spills into the other one. And that's what I feel like this card reminds us, is that we have the opportunity to take a pause and to refill our energy, to refill that cup, and to allow it to refill so much that it spills over. And we get to have that abundance, and we get to have that energy, whether it's to retreat or whether it's to move forward. We get to retreat into ourselves, to care for ourselves and honor those moments, but then we also get to take what we collect within those moments and move forward and share it with the world and push ourselves when we need to. So a reminder that we have that balance. Like those two mountains here are balanced, And if you look at the 8 sideways, I feel like most often they're balanced. And it's an idea that we get to find that balance of comfort and nourishment as well as expansion and growth. So
I love that. First of all, I just want to say my mind went right to the chocolate fountain, not to the champagne fountain. Same idea. I was like, ooh, chocolate. Oh, yeah, yeah, champagne too. But like I mentioned before, when I am looking at a tarot card that I've never seen before, which is beautiful, it's like learning a new language. You hear this word in a different language and you automatically translate it back to your native language in your head. And I go right to that Rider-Waite 8 of Cups and what it looks like. And it's very much for me is stepping out of your comfort zone, leaving something that's good to grow and reach for something that's better. But in that deck, which I've not put with the tarot, with the Rider-Waite deck, I like the gorgeous reddish purple mountains that are in the background there, because that felt very grounding and safe and beautiful to me, while I'm looking at the blue moon over above, which felt very like etheric and dreamy, and like what I'm dreaming about is safe to go after. That's what that made me feel. I love those two.
I love the notion of the mountains helping you ground and feel comfortable. I love that. And the blue movie, I love that. The blue too is very soothing and calming. And I didn't realize until I pulled it out, excuse me, a second time, there's roses on those
Oh, is that
mountains.
what's making the color of the mountains? Yeah, I couldn't see
Yep.
that from there. Now I do.
And there's that notion of the possibility with each petal turning. So I love that. Thank you for sharing. That is awesome. And
Interesting to me about both of them in cups.
Yep.
Very emotional.
Well, I feel like that's what these times are. These times are emotional for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I want to take a moment just to highlight the process in our minds between you with a history of tarot and me without a history of tarot. And like you said, how when you learn a new language, you convert it to the old language. And I often wonder if that's the process that people who read tarot with the knowledge and the history of tarot in more of a traditional manner, that's how they work. Whereas if you're reading it more intuitive, you don't necessarily lean on that existing knowledge, but you just go with what ideas and notions come up first in your head.
Yeah, and I do have to say, because I do read both intuitively, actually, I learned intuitively to read them. My mentor took the book from me and wouldn't let me use the book. And she handed me the deck and she's like, here, read this. And that's how I learned. But then I learned the symbolism. But now that gave me the confidence to know what the symbolism means and go, not in this situation. That's not right for this. Yesterday I was pulling cards for someone and I know the traditional meaning of this card, and I know it was like, yes, they're the hero. And I'm like, that's not what this means. You know, for me, this means they keep trying and keep missing, keep trying and keep missing. There is no hero energy there. So if you do read traditionally, or if you do read intuitively, don't worry about that traditional symbolism. If you are feeling something is different, please, for the love of God, go with your gut, because your gut is going to be what's right.
And that notion of going with our gut can feel so powerful. We've got that instinctive intuition in our solar plexus, and that's kind of where intuition is born. It's that instinct to, yes, do something, no, don't do something. And when we can cultivate that, I feel like the whole say yes more is challenging a little bit of that instinct, but also honoring that instinct a little bit more, getting the muck out of the way so we can listen to that more. But I just to reiterate and to say yes to what you said about go with your gut. Even just the littlest thing, go with your gut. One of the things that happened when I was able to do this group reading last week, actually it was last week today, in the morning, while I was sitting having my coffee and my breakfast, I was watching a show, and a notion came up into my mind. And there was a notion to say something to somebody, and I just jotted it down. I wasn't connected to the reading at that time. I hadn't even done my meditation. I was eating my eggs and drinking my coffee, but it stayed in my mind. So I found myself carrying it with me throughout my day, and it felt like in my gut I needed to share it. I didn't know why, I just needed to share it. And that was one of the most powerful messages of the group reading when I shared that what came to my mind. And it was like a fleeting thought that came into my head that just felt powerful. And it was honoring that, go with my gut and say this. And I did. And it was like, okay, this is why that was there. And I think the more we do that, the more we start to build trust and build that language to talk to our intuition more.
Right. And it happens during coffee and eggs because your ego's going, nope, 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 no. I mean, it's not going, no, nope, nope, because you're concentrating on coffee and eggs. And the higher self is able to get in there and be like, hey, you need to say this. Yeah, I love that. I love those moments. Pay attention to those.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, any other thoughts or ideas on the notion of saying yes or on the cards that we shared today?
No, just it's scary, but do it anyway. You hear it all the time, and we're taking our own advice, so I hope you do too. It's okay that it's a little scary. Life should be a little exciting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Exactly what she said. Go with your gut, say yes more, and see how it goes. Um, I would love for you guys to connect with us and try out one of our Living Intuitively with Tarot sessions. We are moving into the High Priestess this week. We have the Fool, we have the Magician still available. They're a really great tool to offer a different way to look at your spirituality, a different way to connect with your intuition, and a new way to connect with your unique divine expression of self. So check that out. If you would like any more information, let us know. You can find both me and Danielle on our social medias and on our websites. We will be sure to share our websites below, as well as you can look up Unique Beauty and Meditation on Instagram and Facebook. Yeah, and I will say goodbye and have a wonderful, uniquely beautiful day. And I will let Danielle say her goodbyes.
I just want to throw in there too that this podcast went seamlessly with Living Intuitively with Tarot, because we were talking about our magician moments and our fool moments, our beginning, trying these new beginnings. But the High Priestess coming up is very much about listening to your intuition, saying yes to your intuition, saying yes to the unseen, the things that feel good that you can't necessarily see. So we would love for you to join us there. I don't think you said my social media information, and each one of them are different. So I'm not going to bother, and I'm going to put the links in the description to make it easier for all of us. But you can find us anywhere, and we would love to have you join us. So with that, I also will say goodbye and just encourage you to say yes more and have a fabulous day.